European Union lawmakers have backed controversial copyright laws, which critics say could change the nature of the internet. The vote in the European Parliament follows 2 years of debate among artists and journalists, as well as tech companies and internet activists. Under the new rules, Silicon Valley giants will need licensing deals with record labels and media companies to publish their content, and could impact the creation of memes. Consumer groups say the new rules would stifle creativity because it limits the amount of content that can be freely shared online. But news organisations and musicians say the reform will help them get paid fairly for their work.
Dear colleagues, let me recall that the title of the directive is Copyright in the Digital Single Market. It's our duty to fix issues of great concern at European level.
Well, let's get more on this now from Kevin Ozebek in Brussels. Hi, Kevin. We have another example here of the EU forcing change on the big tech companies who are largely based in the US. How might these new rules affect their businesses?
Well, it really will have a huge impact on them, and that's because they are now going to be responsible if anyone like you or me, or who creates content and would upload it to a platform like YouTube, puts into that content some copyrighted material like a song or a video clip or a news article. So it really will impact them, because now the pressure and the responsibility is on them to make sure that that copyright material isn't misused. So now, according to this legislation that was passed, it doesn't explicitly state how those big tech giants have to get into compliance and make sure that copyright material isn't misused. But it is pretty much the wide thinking that what they're going to have to do is create some sort of filter that's going to quickly screen uploaded content and check to see if there's copyrighted material in it. Critics of all of this say the danger with that is these filters aren't 100% accurate. And what could be happening is those platforms like YouTube could get pretty worried that they're going to get fined or face some sort of penalty. So there's a lot of content that they may kind of flag and not allow to be posted because they want to be extra careful to make sure they aren't slapped with penalties.
During this debate, we saw some notable musicians, including Sir Paul McCartney and Debbie Harry, campaign in favour for these reforms. Is this being seen as a victory for content creators?
Well, people like you just mentioned, especially the famous Beatles, certainly are calling this a win. And here's the reason why. Their argument has always been, we work very hard to create this content. And we also have just some skills that we are blessed with, whether they're creativity skills like creating music or programming, or maybe we're a good writer when it comes to some of this content, and we want to make sure that our words, our music, our notes, our tunes are protected. Not just that they're protected, but also we are fairly compensated for it. So that's the argument that they make, and that's why they pushed really hard for this. Now, the counter argument from some of the tech giants like Google that owns YouTube is, what this new law does is it really hurts the small and up-and-coming content creators, because then maybe they can't play with that famous Sir Paul McCartney song. They'll have to do something completely original. So that's why this aspect has two sides to it as well. And that's also why, just take a look at the vote numbers in the European Parliament today. 348 MPs supported this, 274 voted against it. So not a landslide victory, and really reflects how divisive this vote was and how divisive this law is.
And some critics are even saying it could spell the end of these memes that proliferate social media. But just quickly, Kevin, what happens now? When will we see these new rules in place?
Okay, so not a done deal just yet. It's now passed through all the EU institutions. Now there are 2 years for this law to be written into the national legislations of all the 28 EU member states. The UK is a little bit of a tricky one here because of Brexit, so maybe we should say the 27 remaining EU countries. All of their national parliaments have to enact this and pass it. We'll see if there's any resistance here. But at the end of the day, the reason this passed the European Parliament, as well as pushed through the European Commission, is because ambassadors and diplomats from the EU 27 have already mulled through this legislation. So it's very likely this will be law in the EU in just 2 years.
Okay, Kevin Ozebek, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you again for your time.